You're listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. I am your host, Al Mega, CEO of Comic Crusaders and Undercover Capes. In this show, I'm sitting down with creators from all walks of life to talk about inspiration, process, the lessons they've learned, and a whole lot more. Wepa! What up, Crusaders? Welcome back to another dope episode of the Comic Crusaders podcast. You already know it's your boy Al Mega here, bringing you the best and brightest in comics, geekdom, and beyond. And today we got an extra special guest, baby. It's a man who's been delivering the news by day and crafting epic indie comics by night. He's a journalist for CBC News, and now he's stepping into the comic book ring with his latest project called Betweeners. All right? We're about to dive into his journey from reporting real-world events to building an all-new world in comics. Now, how does a journalist transition into indie comics? What's the creative process behind Betweeners? And how is he navigating the indie comic scenes like a true pro? We're about to find out. So buckle up, hit that like button, baby. Subscribe if you haven't already, and let's give it warm. Comic Crusaders, welcome to the one, the only, the future star himself, the big boss, Adam Carter, baby. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks very much for having me. I got to hire you as my hype guy. Man, what is that?
Hey, you're a boss, boy. You doing your thing in the real world, and you coming on through, showing off your geekdom. That's love, man. I can't wait to dig in because your mind must be in so many places. The things, I peep on the stuff you write about. Yeah, you really do get into the news. So curious how that maybe integrates into your writing, those stories. So, but everybody here loves a good origin story. So that's the first thing we got to talk about. Where you originally from, and most importantly, what is the first thing in fandom overall that you ever fell in love with?
Ooh, great question. So I'm originally from Conception Bay, Newfoundland, which is not far from St. John's, about as east in Canada as you can get before you fall into the ocean. And,
Okay.
So I grew up there, and then I've been living in Ontario now, in Toronto, for the last few years. The earliest thing I can remember in fandom, the earliest memory I probably have for that sort of thing is the 1960s Spider-Man TV show.
Oh,
Up as a kid before school and hanging out with my mom and watching them every day. And to this day, it's still something that she brings up, and I still remember. It's like a real core memory of, she still refers to it as the nice Spider-Man. Because she's really in on the 60s version of it. But yeah, it's one of those things that to this day is still like an anchor memory for me. And I mean, I basically learned how to read on comic books. Like some of the earliest memories I have are reading like 70s Avengers and Iron Man and stuff, and like picking out words myself and figuring out like, okay, this goes here, and figuring out with words and pictures. So I mean, like, it's really been foundational for me forever.
Great. All right. So were you the only geek in your group of friends? Growing up, were you kind of a lone wolf or like a popular geek?
I would never. Well, as a kid, I wouldn't have called myself popular at any point, and I still don't know that I would now. No, as a young kid, it was kind of just me. Eventually, you find your group of friends. I find most people. For me, it took a little bit of time, and it was more like into high school, into university. I found the same people who it's kind of we all would all bond around music and comics and stuff. It's when you can find people who love Black Sabbath and Batman in equal measures when you kind of find
what? Oh, what were those conversations like? All right, so how did you meet your first group of people, let's say, out there in Canada, showing off your geekdom and love of music?
So it was, I mean, meeting people in high school, playing in, bands at the time that you thought would go big that never did, but you kind of
played in bands. What you play? Get out here. Look at Adam, a man of all trades over here, folks.
I'm a man of at least a couple, but maybe not all. But yeah, I play guitar, I sing. Initially, that was like I used to teach music lessons and do that whole thing, and then I've got more into journalism. So I still do play. My current band is actually just a band that only plays songs from The Simpsons.
What?
Yeah, it's like rock versions of Simpsons songs. So like Monorail, Can I Borrow a Feeling, the main theme, Talking Softball, stuff like that. Camp Krusty.
Can we hear these things on your socials or wherever you
got? Yeah, you can find them on. If you have a look on Spotify, the band name is the B Sharps because it kind of had
B Sharp. My man is murdering it. All right, bro. So from news desk to comic books, right? Let's talk about this, right? You built a career as a journalist for CBC News. How you get into all of that and then take that leap from that to wanting to do comic books?
So initially for me, I mean, I really wanted to try doing comics when I was right out of school. And that was, about 15 years ago. So now, and it was just seemed like a bit too much for me at that point. Like I had some different ideas, but I never finished anything. I feel like a lot of creators are kind of like this. You start 80 different projects, you never really get off the ground, you never really finish stuff. And so once I got into journalism school and got into journalism more regularly, a lot of that fell by the wayside. But one thing out of this job has taught me is just the push to finish things and the drive to finish things, to be able to learn how to edit, to make changes, to figure out stories, and to push them through to the very end. And it was over the pandemic, I guess, that I kind of just, in one of the various nights I'm sitting around, not able to do anything, can't see friends, and like just thinking to myself, why don't you just finish something? Just write until it's done. You have that. You don't necessarily even have to do something, just write. And when it's done, it's done. You'll figure it out, and then we can go from there. And that's kind of where I started going with this. I mean, I feel like it's one of those, it's the ultimate figure it out as you go sort of thing. Like I've just been going from scratch and trying to figure it out, but it is nice to finally see a finished product kind of coming here now.
Awesome. So the origins of the Betweeners, baby. So tell us about that. What's the elevator pitch for the story? What inspired it?
So Betweeners, I usually refer to it as a horror possession tale with a twist. It's a story of an exorcist, but not a normal exorcist, because this exorcist is also possessed. So he is attempting to stay one step ahead of the hordes of hell who are trying to drag him back to hell, while he is basically inhabiting someone else's body and trying to make sure that nobody clues in that he's not who he says he is. In terms of figuring it out, I mean, I've always been a huge fan of one of my biggest influences ever in comics and in writing in general is Garth Ennis. Like I love Preacher. I loved his Hellblazer run. His Punisher run is iconic. I mean, I have a Genesis tattoo here. Like that's how big Garth Ennis was for me. And I really loved, and I have for a long time, like just depictions of heaven and hell in comics and what comes after and the afterlife and everything else. So I wanted to kind of go in on that a bit. And so I knew I wanted to try and tell an exorcism story, but I didn't want to tell a traditional one. I didn't want to do the priest. I didn't want to do the power of Christ compels you with a crucifix, because like The Exorcist exists. It's iconic for a reason. I'm not going to tell that story better than it's already been done. So I wanted to find a way to kind of tell an exorcism story without the usual religious, at least organized religion undertones and the iconography and everything that comes with that. And then one night it kind of came to me, because I was trying to figure out, why wouldn't an exorcist use those tools though? Like, why wouldn't you use holy water? Why wouldn't you use, like, if demons exist, you would use those things.
You're going to use whatever tools at hand.
Yeah. But then that's how I figured out, like, hey, okay, but what if our exorcist can't? What if he can't do those things? Because if he touches them, it's a problem. And that's where I got to the idea of, okay, what if he's possessed too? So that's the reason why it's kind of like his own kryptonite. It's like if Superman desperately needed kryptonite but couldn't use it. It's the same sort of thing. So that interplay and the switcheroo body thing too, I found really interesting. And so the idea kind of grew from there.
I love it. Well, so journalism and comics, both about storytelling, but they function obviously in very different ways. Well, so what are some of the biggest challenges that you face, maybe switching gears, from doing that new stuff into comic books? What type of learning curve did you face here?
Oh, definitely some, for sure. Just figuring out how to structure things. I would probably describe it as kind of like a blessing and a curse at the same time. Because in news, you're petrified about getting something wrong. You don't ever want to screw anything up. You don't want to get facts wrong. You don't want to get so it's all like,
you got to get fact checked.
Exactly. So like, you got to have all of this right. You got to have all of this right. But there's a freeing thing in fiction that I can just go like, whatever is right is what I make up. So there's a freedom there of like, oh wow, I can do whatever I want here. This is my world. So that is really cool. But at the same time, in journalism, you take facts. Like I'm in court reporting on what happens. I'm reading a report and writing that into a story. So you always have things coming to you that you can write. But when it comes to fiction or comics, like it's just whatever I'm coming up with. And if you hit that
Yeah.
roadblock, there's nothing coming to save you. It's just you got to figure it out yourself. You got to write your way out of this. So,
Got
like I said, it's kind of a blessing and a curse in both ways. Where it's nice to be able to make your own world, but it's up to you to fill it, and it can be daunting to do that, I guess, at the start.
All right, so let's talk about this collaborative creativity here, because again, you say you got this story, you built this beautiful story. Now, talk about this team. Like, who are these creative partners in this collaborative event you have here? I see you have a couple of awesome people that work with you. So, how did you meet them and even choose them even to work your project? How does this come about?
So, as with a lot of creative endeavors at this point, it's just finding people on the internet, and I'm thankful for it because the people I found are in all different parts of the world. So, Armin Osdick, who's drawing it, uh, I got so many submissions when I had put out just a cold call for like, hey, here's this project that I'm doing. Anyone
How
who's
did you do?
interested.
Where did you put that cold call? I just want people to learn. Like, either
Oh,
if they
sure,
want to
yeah.
do a cold call, what platform you use, for
So I
example?
just mostly use Reddit and Facebook, and I
Okay,
was honestly inundated with just
really.
options. There's so many artists out there and so many people who are doing great work, but it's finding the right person for the feel of the book that you have. And as soon as I saw Armin's stuff, it was actually a Punisher page that he had done a sample, and I was just kind of like, that guy gets
You
it.
fell in love.
Yeah, instantly. It was just like he fully it was the sort of thing where I wasn't exactly sure what I was looking for until I saw it, and it was that. And so I really, because this was my first project, I've had a lot of kid on Christmas moments where this was like the first few pages he sent me was like this mind-blowing moment of like, there's the thing I wrote. That's the thing. Like, it's real now. It's in the world. Like, I can see it. And so like every time I had one of those moments, I would still get excited like a kid, like, wow, here's another new page for this thing. And then after that, it was tracking down Guy Sabino, who's doing the colors. And
Mhm.
his stuff again was like another level of it added such a depth to this thing, even though the story's in black and white, but he's adding all of the shading and the grayscale and all those tones. So it's taking Armin stuff and layering on top of that. And again, it was like getting to have that excited moment all over again of like, oh wow, like, and it just really layers and layers on top of this sort of stuff. And then from
Okay.
there, it's Hector who's doing the lettering, and it like great deft use of text in terms of just not how it's positioned, but also just the structure of sound effects and things like that. There's a real artistry to all levels of this thing, and it's been really interesting to see how it gets made from start to finish. I've learned a lot doing it and learned a lot in the process. But yeah, all three guys have been instrumental in building this thing, and I obviously can't imagine it without them at this point.
So let's start showing some of that stuff off. Yes, I've been teasing folks. That's why I want him to talk about this amazing thing, because this book is a beautiful looking book. Now,
Thank you.
again, as we start talking about it, I mean, first look at this cover, man. Who did the cover? Because it's fire, baby. Look at that.
That's Armin and Guy there, right? Yeah,
That's all
uh,
of him right there.
yeah, all
Nice.
that it's both of those guys, and then Hector building all the other stuff with it. But yeah, like that was one of those things where I can't even remember at this point what the initial idea I pitched to Armin was. I think it was more of an initial play on the old school Exorcist poster, actually. The one where he's standing outside under the streetlight.
Yeah, yeah,
And
iconic. Yeah.
yeah. And so I was like, okay, it might be interesting to do a play on that. And Armin kind of was like, let me try this other thing. And like the way he built this, just with all the demons and the ghouls underneath our main character there, I again was
Yeah.
an instant like, oh yeah, this is it. I get it, 100%. It also
All right.
kind of reminded me of the old, I can't remember which cover it is, but it's the Spider-Man where he's walking away with the costume in the
Oh, the
trash.
Spider-Man No More.
Yeah, the first time he ever gives up, and it
The
reminded
Spider-Man
me
No
of
More.
yeah, and it
Yeah.
reminded me of that too. So it was that initial like connection with something for me as a kid, and something I really remember that I was like, okay, this is the thing, this works.
Yeah, man. Spider-Man back in the day was mad emo. Who was giving up for a minute? Like, yeah, chill, bro. Stop. Just keep doing your thing. You're good. Now he's mad heroic. Don't stop. But back in the day, I mean, I get it. It was great writing, though. The conflicted hero. Like, what do you do? They don't do that anymore, really.
No, not like
Sadly.
that. No.
Yeah. But he was emo, though. You gotta admit.
Oh, 100% he was. There was just like Peter Parker can't catch a break no matter what.
Oh my effing god! Look at this, son.
Vlados is this guy's name. About as
What?
pissed off. a pissed off a demon as you can get. So he is the leader
Yo.
of the Horrors, which is Hell's elite paramilitary group, and he is also a great Duke
Oh,
of Hell. So think one of the higher ups in Hell, and he is completely and utterly obsessed with order. And the fact that our main character has been able to get out of Hell in the way that he has is like the worst affront to him on earth, or I guess in hell in this case. And so he's just like consumed with a rage and trying to get this guy back. But this was another page that I had initially um, kind of framed this a little bit differently. And Armin said to
yeah.
me, like, no, we need a big, like, he's standing there, like this
Oh,
real
yeah.
boom
Listen
moment.
to Armin.
Yeah. And he was right. God, he was right.
Yeah, bro. I mean, again, look, folks, just appreciate. Let me even put it a little bit. Look at that. That is gorgeous, bro. Well done, yo. That is fire, son. Fire,
Yeah.
fire, 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 fire. I mean, and then look at this panel work right here. What's popping here, bro? What's going on?
So this is a demon who has pissed off Lados, and he is emphatically voicing his displeasure. The thing that I love about this page is you get a feel for just how big he is and the power behind him. Like that one punch shot there in panel 4. The
Yeah,
first
yo.
time I ever saw that was like you can really feel the impact of that moment and
Fuck yeah.
feel the fear that's there in this other demon's eyes. So it's really just showing off the
Yeah.
kind of power that he has behind him.
And that particular panel is a great show of teamwork between the artistry and the lettering to really, you makes you feel the impact of what the fuck is happening. Like you feel the punch, even
Yeah,
though you're reading
exactly.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
And
Yeah,
the
definitely
coloring
good
there
job.
too, honestly, like the way that he
All
is,
of it. Yeah,
yeah, no, it really all comes together well. I love that page.
all of it. All of it. And again, I love the panel work and how I like how some of the lines are not even straight. It's like, what's going on? It's wavy. What the fuck?
Yeah.
It's trippy, but it moves along almost cinematically. But it's just the art. Look at the way it's captured, man.
Yeah,
Fire.
the cinematic aspect was something that the way that Armin draws, I feel like, is very widescreen. It's very like you're seeing this up on a screen somewhere. He has that feel, and I mean, like I'd give him a little bit of direction in terms of like where the camera would be, but for the most part, it's just him. I'm just letting him play here and figuring
I
out the
love
right
it.
shots, and it's he nails it constantly.
So, all right. So, as the writer, how do you collaborate though? How do you really translate it to him? Well, how's that interaction? Is it always like nah, 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 or sometimes he goes, yeah, I got you here.
Yeah.
How's that relationship?
So, I mean, I was kind of figuring this out as I go when I
Yeah,
started here
man.
because, like, different writers write in different ways. And I would look at different scripts, and some people would have a fight scene, say, and it's like 3 lines, and you're just letting the artist go off. Or you could have on the other end of the spectrum, like an Alan Moore level, like, I'm writing every minute detail that's in every panel, and I need you to draw it exactly this way. And so I tried to kind of find a happy middle ground, I guess, between getting what I wanted out there and also not driving the artist nuts. Because I'm sure like being told exactly what to draw all the time would kind of get a bit old. So for the most part with the process, it was, I'd script it initially, send it off to Armin. He'd send me like some rough sketches and say like, what do you think about this? And there'd be a collaborative process sometimes, or he might even look at the script and go like, I don't think that's really going to work. Like the previous page
Yeah.
you just showed wasn't initially what I had written. So he
Okay.
gave me suggestions in different spots, and like most of the
Nice.
time his suggestions were the right ones. I mean, he's going to know better than me what's going to land on a printed page. So it really did feel like a collaborative effort there between the two of us in terms of being able to find the right shots, the right way to frame things, the right like the character designs and stuff. I gave him like a pretty, I don't know how loose it was, but in terms of like, here's what Vlados should look like. And I told him, like he should feel regal. He has like a bit of a Doctor Doom-esque feel to him. He
Yeah.
should like he's a tank sort of guy. But it's one of those things where I'm giving him different spots, and then you know, he'd he'd send back, I'd be like, oh, that's Vlados. It was one of those things where I'm finally like, that's the thing I saw in my head, but he's elevating at several levels. And it's that process that I found really cool with a bunch of the different characters in this thing.
Yeah. Are you from Canada? then I want to know how you Canadians handle this hustle, baby, because the indie comic scene is just that. It's a hustle as opposed to traditional publishing. So what have you learned this far, in this journey that you've been on with that?
That nothing is going to be nearly as simple or as fast or as easy as you think.
Truth, baby.
Oh
Yeah.
man. Like when I first
Yeah,
started
man.
this, I thought this thing would be out like
Love it.
last summer. I was fully like, oh, this will be done. This will be able to get finished. Yeah. And like, no, it's way more time. It's way more effort. And it's for everybody, like it's very easy for me to just crank out a couple of pages and say, hey, please write this. But if you want art like this, it's going to take time. So it's figuring out all those processes and
Oof.
stuff like that. And then finding the right places to pitch it to and trying to get it in front of people's eyes and being able to now get on shows like yours. And it's almost like having a second job. Honestly, like even it's great and it's fun and I love doing this, but like it's work in
No,
terms
it
of
is. It
like
is.
the
That's what
artistic.
people don't get.
Yeah. Like there, if you want something like this to actually finish, like it's work. The first part of it was the easy, quote unquote, fun part for me of writing the thing. But then it's the like, okay, how do I get all this together? How do I like finish everything and make sure it gets out the door? And it's that process is way more complicated than I thought it would be. So it's
100.
it's a learning experience the whole way through for sure.
I dig it. All right, so news versus fiction, right? Because again, in journalism, objectivity is key. In comics, emotion and drama, right, drive the story. So how do you approach the writing, with that creative freedom now?
So I would say that the emotion and drama exists in journalism too, because in any really good story, those things need to exist, and they need to
Because you want to
exist.
sell it, baby.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
but it's not even a matter of like torquing it up. It's finding the emotion in what anyone is feeling in any given moment and having that at the top of the story, being able to like really very quickly say, here's why you should care about this. And I mean, like, I would say that that exists both in comics and in journalism, that if you don't get somebody quick, they're gone. Like there's so many other options out there.
Word.
There's so many different things that people can spend their time with. So like you got to be in there quick. So there is an emotion and a drama that you have to be able to find in both industries. But there is, like you say, an objectivity that constrains you in journalism because you're playing with the facts. But here, I can create my own fictionalized version of hell that is alive and host some of the world's worst tragedies on top of being the place where damned souls are going, and being able to, there's a real fun behind that of just like, what is this world I want to build? What is this thing that I want to create?
Yeah. See, but I want to ask that. See, with that, do you think that journalistic background of yours, influence how you maybe research
Oh
and,
yeah, yeah,
and build the lore for it?
yeah. It definitely, like, I was looking into Catholic exorcism techniques and stuff like that, and
Oh, well,
they
what was the
exist in me.
spiciest thing you learned out of those techniques?
Well, I don't know how spicy some of it is, but like a lot of the stuff about like blessed salt, but using Benedict metals, like some of the different rituals and stuff that you'd end up reading,
Word.
like that for me was kind of a, how do I use that in a different context with these characters? So for me, it's
Cool.
things like they can't use holy water. They can't do the splashing of holy water. The main character can't because he's
Yeah,
also
yeah,
possessed.
he's a demon. Yeah, you can't touch nothing that's religious. Period.
But early on in the story, he's wearing gloves and using holy water in a syringe and
Oh,
injecting it into someone's spine as a lumbar puncture. And so you're actually pushing holy water into someone. So it's taking those constraints because he's not ever
okay.
touching it. Think about
Yeah,
somebody like,
true.
yeah. So it's
Gloves plus the plastic. You got like a double layer right
yeah, yeah.
there.
So it's basically figuring out
Love it.
interesting ways that you can take some of that stuff
I
and
like that.
push it into like a comics context. The
That's
other
nerve
thing that
wracking though.
the other
For me
thing
as
that
a demon, if I go like this and put that syringe and that shit's coming out, like, oh my god, please don't land on me.
there is that, yeah. Although it's figuring out like some of those spots. The other thing for journalism that's really great, honestly, is figuring out how people talk.
Yeah,
Because I spend so much time transcribing interviews and stuff like that. So you really listen to how people speak. And very quickly, I figured out that for
oh, I
fiction, I
dig
didn't
that.
want to write in a way that was kind of what lilting and highfalutin, like I wanted these people to speak like real people. And there are people who can write in a way that is much more theatrical. And I just didn't think that that was me. So I think that journalism has really helped shape how I write dialogue for sure.
I love it, folks. You saw, I just showed you this book drops April 30th. You got a Global Comics, Amazon, Kindle, all that right there. It's April. You got to get it. You already saw the art. It's gonna be fire, son. You already heard it. So let me ask you though, any dream collaborations? If you could work with any comic book artist or writer as well, living or legendary, live, whatever. You know what I mean? Who would be on your dream project roster as
Ooh,
a creator?
I mean,
I want to dig into your comic geekdom right here. Like, what would you say that?
there's so many writers I'd love to work with. I mean, it would be great to work with. I mentioned Garth Ennis earlier. Someone like Jonathan Hickman in terms of like
Ooh,
world building and like the sheer extent of um, like just the sheer scope of some of his work is crazy to me. Jeff Lemire would be great, another Canadian who I truly love a lot of his work. In terms of artists, I think it'd be really cool. I'll bring it back to Spider-Man again, but like I know Ditko's not around anymore, but God, to
yeah.
have him draw
Again,
something or
yeah.
Jack Kirby
Imagine.
or
Oh,
like a true legend. I mean, for people who are still around, I grew up reading Peter Parker's Spider-Man when John Romita was drawing it, John Romita Jr. So like having it, he's still drawing a lot of stuff. Like working with him would be incredible. Bruce Timm would be amazing. I'm such a huge Batman the Animated Series fan, so like having like that level of stuff in terms of artistry would be great. I mean, there's so many different options that
yeah.
would be amazing.
And a big salute to also Stars Radio. So, buddy, so you're asking. I know you can't see the name of the book. The book is called Betweeners. All right, so check it out. It's dropping April 30th on Global Comics, Amazon Kindle. You know what I mean? So make sure you get it called Betweeners. You heard what it is. My man is murdering it. It's gonna be such a fun book. So, what's the future of Betweeners? Is this like a one shot? Do you see Betweeners expanding into something larger, a series, a graphic novel, multimedia? Are you gonna be the new king of all media, Adam? What's popping
I mean, I would love if that was the case, but I'm not going to count on
here?
it. So I wanted to make sure part of the reason I did this as a graphic novel and not as something sequential is I always love having a finished story. Like one of my favorite things in the world is finding a comic I didn't know about that's finished and knowing I have a start to end process there.
I
So
feel you. I feel you.
I
I
just
feel you
love
on
those.
that.
I remember like I discovered Why the Last Man way like it was
Oh,
done. And so
yeah.
to know it's like I have so many issues of this that I could
100
read.
bullets. You read 100
Yeah, yeah,
bullets
as
too?
well. Amazing.
Same thing,
Yeah.
right? Like, it has a definitive end. You're done. It's like, yeah, were you happy that it ended? Maybe not because you love what it is. Walking Dead as well, where it
Yeah,
ended.
yeah.
Like, you know,
Perfect stuff.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
But the thing about that is it's just like I'm going into it knowing that I'm getting a writer and artist version or a vision beginning to end, you know? Like it's exactly where they wanted to start and leave it. And that I found I really wanted to be able to give people. But I also wanted to make sure in the ending that there was a backdoor for me to continue this if people were still into the story and wanted more of it. So
Okay,
I
bad.
tried to kind of give it a satisfying ending, but it doesn't clue up maybe in the way that people would think. And I
All
do
right.
know exactly where the story goes for these characters. It just depends on if people are interested in hearing more.
Hearing, I mean, reading more, seeing more.
Read
Yes,
more, yeah.
I mean, let's go, folks. Because Betweeners is where it's gonna be at. Let me put that back on screen for a minute. And Adam again, Betweeners. Check that out. You can drop on April 30th. You can follow Adam Carter and Betweeners. What was that? Conception Based Sabbath, web by
So
Gangster.
I'm from Conception Based Sabbath in Newfoundland, and Black Sabbath is Black Sabbath. So the two
Yeah,
mashed together are Conception Based Sabbath.
yeah. No, hey, but I love me too, boy, right there. And then also on actually, it's Adam Carter, CBC, Adam Carter Rice on Blue Sky. You know what it is. So, uh, a final plug and a fun question, right? So, imagine that Between Us is being turned into a movie or an animated series. Who's voicing or playing your main characters, and of course, where can people in France support your work?
Who would be voicing or
Outside what I
playing?
said.
So Vlados, the huge guy that you see there, I would enjoy a Dave Batista. I think that he'd be really great in that role. The demon
Okay.
that you, I just think Batista, like seeing him in some of his more stoic stuff outside, like the Guardian stuff, would be really great. In terms of who would play the main guy, I don't know.
You know what? I would have placed your main guy as a Batista and put the other guy as Kevin Gravio because of his voice. He sounds scary.
Yeah, no, that's true. That would be cool. That would be cool. The other one that so the main character, like I said, because he's possessed, the guy who is possessing him, we haven't really seen much from him in any of the promo materials, but he's built a little bit like Larry David, who's a personal hero of mine.
I love Larry David, dude. It's the Curb Enthusiasm is one of my favorite shows of all time.
Truly incredible. And
Period. It's
I
so
I
funny.
I would love to work with Larry more than just about anything on earth, but the chances of me getting him in a movie
Yo, could
about
you
demons,
imagine Larry David doing a comic book? Has he ever done a comic book?
I
I
don't
would
think
love.
so. I think
I,
Larry only does whatever Larry wants to do at
oh
this
man,
point and ever.
but that would be interesting if he took a turn and tried to do a comic book, a humor comic. I could see him doing it. It would
I
be
would love
probably
it. I'd
pretty
read
fun.
it. Yeah, I'd read it in an instant.
I'd buy the shit out of it. Give me all the variants you want, right? Let's go. I dig it. So, what's in store for you, Adam? How do you balance though? Like what you doing between journalism and comics? How do you split that time? Because you still actively are doing journalism, correct?
Oh yeah, I definitely still am. I mean, the thing about comics I think I find is I think almost at least for me the perfect medium for where we are right now as a society because like I spend all day reading and writing and we're kind of just blasted with information in a way that I don't think really have been in like recorded history, you know. So the thing about comics is I find it way more digestible than a novel would be at the end of the day or like
Right.
you know, it's so I really love it as a medium because I find at least a little easier to read, a little easier on the brain. But even when you're spending all day, you know, reading news, writing news, whatever it is you're doing, comic books to me kind of feels like, I don't know, a warm hug almost. Like it's just like hey, this is an easy thing. This is a world you love, and there's so many worlds open to you, and like here you go. So it just feels like such an easy in for me. And splitting up the two, like there are definitely days where you come out of, you know, reporting on a court case or something truly heinous, and you're kind of going, oh, this is a rough one. And to be able to push all of that stuff aside and go back into a world that you've created is almost kind of therapeutic, I guess. Like being able to write that way after rough days can be really helpful, and you can write through some of the issues and some of the stuff you see. Because I mean, you know, obviously the news cycle in 2025 can be daunting at the best of times. So
Oh,
I,
oh.
I, I do find like I've comic books for me are therapeutic at this point. Like
Yeah,
I truly
you
do
ain't
think,
lying.
no,
They found pillars under the damn pyramids now. Like, what are we talking about here? So, what the hell is going on? Holy shit, man! Okay, I don't even want to know where engineer. Maybe the pyramids were huge computer chips. Maybe we all living on a motherboard.
honestly, at this point, if it's all a simulation or if aliens show up tomorrow, I don't know if I'd even blink. It would just
You know
kind of be
what I
like,
mean?
oh,
Let me tell you, you want to smoke with me, Mr. Alien or Miss Alien or whatever you want to identify yourself as? I'm going for here, please. For peace, baby, for peace. So, bro, are you making any appearances anywhere anytime soon?
no,
And I also forgot to ask something, though. That was very important. You said it's a graphic novel. How many pages we're getting out of this baby so people are aware of what they're
100,
getting into?
103 pages plus
Ooh,
some extra stuff
103,
there.
baby.
Yeah, I
Ooh.
probably should have gone with an even number, but here we are. That's how long it took. That was how long the story needed, so that's how long it was.
Hey, but it's 103 is 103 plus some little extras. But check it out. The other three page dropping April 30th, folks. Again, go check out one of my favorite digital platforms, which is Global Comics right there. You can get that right there digitally. I mean, any plans for dropping this on print? Can we get it on print too? What's
Yeah,
going on
so
there?
the plan is going through Amazon and a couple other spots to go through the print on
Ooh,
demand side of things. So
wonderful.
it's figuring out the back end of that now, which is a joy as well. But yeah, I'm attempting to go that way at least to start, and we'll go from there. I wanted to be able to have a print version for people. Like people still care
Yeah,
about
I
physical
want
media.
this. I
Yeah,
want to see this. I want to smell the ink. Have some self porn at 103 pages. That's some self porn, bro. You know what I mean? Make a nice spine on that. Hell yeah, bro.
yeah,
You,
exactly.
I mean, look at this artistry, folks. How can you not want this in print? That's how you enjoy this. Not no hate on digital, but you definitely want it on print. You know what I mean?
I do love with digital being able to just, own and read so much
Oh
stuff.
yeah, exactly. With digital, absolutely. That's the one thing. You could get your nice print copies of the stuff you love and never put your fingerprints on it and protect them and cherish them for what they are.
Yeah.
I got my first white tiger right there.
Uh,
And in color up on the wall. My very first comic book up on the wall. I got the first George Perez work for Marvel via the Deathlock first appearance. You
oh,
know what I mean?
wow.
Up on the wall. I'm Puerto Rican. I'm gonna collect my people. You know what I mean?
And Perez is a legend.
And I'm a Perez too, but not related. Hey, look at that. Or maybe we are. I gotta check. I do not want to submit my DNA anymore because now they're talking about they're gonna clone my ass. Come on now. I don't be playing. Adam Carter, we only have enough Omegas in the world. There's only me. All right. So, all right. But I did ask, right? Are you doing any comic conventions this year? Anything going
No,
on?
I'm
Like,
not really doing much in the way of conventions or anything. Like I said, this is still kind of the start of the journey for me.
okay,
But I'm
cool.
I'm happy to talk with people about my stuff or any other comics at any time. Honestly, it's
Are
just
you
one of
gonna
my
hang out at any conventions and maybe where people could meet?
yeah. I'm hoping I'll be at Fan Expo this year and do stuff like that, at least in Toronto. And I'll see about traveling around. Aside from that,
You turned off your camera,
oh
Adam.
no, sorry, that wasn't
Apparently, you turned off your camera. That's why my big head is on screen right now. And now, did I lose Adam entirely? That's what happens, folks. When we're live, don't you love when it's live? I'm trying to add Adam. Adam. Well, you know what? Well, we've had Adam again to hopefully return. I want to show the book again because, again, I think it is a dope looking book. He does have, in fact, an amazing team that he's built together here again. Armin Ozdeck, Luis Savino, Hector Negrete. I mean, look at this. Look at that artistry. You hear me, Adam?
I can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now. You're still not on screen, but I'm just gonna keep this that way my big head is not shown. So we're good. Don't you worry if you're not on screen. Now, are you gonna hang out at any convention?
I would. I'm going to try and get to Fan Expo again in Toronto here this year, and I'll travel around maybe a bit at some point if the interest seems to be here. Like I said, I'd love to talk with anyone about this book at any point.
Excellent. So make sure that folks, you should be waving a flag. I'm the creator of Betweeners. Something.
I'll have to get a sign.
Yeah. Just walk with a whole band. I'm the creator of Betweeners. Talk to me. I got something for you. And show off that book. Because again, I think people need to see this. Again, I like showing off the art because I love that character. I want to see this on a T-shirt, bro. You make an action figure of this, like, bro, what's going on here?
Man, I'd see an action figure of it would be completely surreal. Someday, I hope.
Yeah, but Adam, we gotta make it happen, bro. We gotta make it happen.
I would love
I
to.
dig it. And again, I want to give a whole salute again to Don't Hype PR. Melissa, thank you for putting this together. Hooking me up with my man Adam over here to talk about this amazing comic book. I mean, I can't wait again. Dropping on Global Comics, Amazon everywhere, April 30th, baby. Get that print on demand though. Make sure you get that shelf porn. It's gonna be looking sexy, man. Do you have any shelf porn? Did you get a copy of it in print as yet? Maybe like a sample or
I'm
no?
hoping that shows up any day now, actually. So I'll let you know soon.
Oh, please, when you do, send me over some pictures. I would definitely love to see how it looks, man.
For sure.
I'm excited because, again, with the way that this looks here, I can't wait to see what it looks like on paper. All right. So, any last words? Because again, you jumping from journalism to comic books and finally showing off and celebrating your geekdom. You know what I mean, if you will. What can you tell fans out there or other folks maybe that maybe are in your space and not maybe allowing themselves to step into this a different world?
I mean, anyone who comes from, following my journalism and wants to get into comics, I mean, there's such a world available to you from everything from superhero stuff to horror and dark stuff like I'm doing here, like darker fantasy or, slice of life stuff. Like you can read Mouse, you can read Palestine. Like there's really profound, obvious stuff in comic books that you should have a look at. For anyone that might follow me over from there, like, there's a whole world open to you here, and you should explore it as much as possible. It's my favorite medium in the world. If I had to pick one thing in the world that I'm allowed to keep in terms of, getting media in, it's comic books. And I
Love
think
it.
it always will be.
And is there before we go a particular lane in comic books? If you say, is it horror? Is it sci-fi? Is it mystery? Like, what would you be your lane if you say that? If you say I want to be, known maybe a little bit more for this, what would it be?
It'd be like horror, fantasy, sci-fi, those three together. I think all of my favorite books kind of like jump in those spots.
You know what? We're just gonna call it the Carterverse, baby. We're building the Carterverse, baby. That's what it is. Yeah, motherfuckers better recognize it is a mix of some shit that's gonna blow your mind. That's what the Betweeners is all about, baby. Ain't no doubt.
Well, thanks so much, Al, for having me. This has been great.
No, you rock. And folks, once again, please follow Adam Carter. Learn all about the Betweeners on Instagram, which is Conception Based Sabbath. On X at Adam Carter, CBC, Blue Sky, Adam Carter writes. And again, April 30th. I put everything, how Omega do it. Make it easy for y'all. Everything's in the show notes. So you just click away. You know what I mean? Spend that money. I know y'all get your tax return. I got mines today. You know what I mean? I was supposed to get more, but apparently I still owed. And a cool $28 landed in my account, but it's still enough for me to buy this book. Isn't that awesome? You see what I'm saying? So if I could do it, so can you.
And I appreciate that.
Hell yeah, baby, let's do it. This is Omega. This is Comic Crusaders. The only reason I'm leaving the screen at this, I don't want to show my big head. Come on, man. What y'all doing playing me like this? Adam turned off his cam. But with that, hasta la próxima, mi gente. You know what it is. Follow everything Comic Crusaders. Love y'all. Wepa! Woo! Thank you for listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. If you like the content, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, please visit comiccrusaders.com and our extended podcast family over at undercovercapes.com. And also, make sure to download the Comic Crusaders app on the Google Play Store today.